side drives.
All right, I have 4:35. At this time, we will call the meeting of the Kansas City Commission to order. And with that, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, so back me, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just come to you tonight, Lord, as we prepare to look at the agenda before us. Help us to use the knowledge we have to make the best decisions for this city. I pray over the people that work for this city, the people that live in this city, and ask that you continue to bless them and help our area to continue to prosper. In your name I pray. Amen.
Right hand over your heart. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that takes us to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of August 28, 2023.
If there are no changes, I move we approve.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Take us to item number 5, public comment. Comments from interested citizens.
Nobody has time in there.
Then item number 6 is to update, consider, and take appropriate action on repairs at Brown Road, Railroad Crossing, Quiet Zone, and future of Brown Road. Joe, did you want to lead it off?
Yeah, and then I'll let you and Chuck chime in afterwards. Still working on this, and we are moving that way. We do have $250,000 in the budget right now. Gary's been working on the communication side, and Chuck's been working on the legal side. Steve, wherever you are, there he is. Chief and I have been talking about 4th Avenue quite a bit on semi-access. We're still looking into the legalities of that. I think you sent me something earlier today even.
Yeah.
So, do you want to speak to that?
Chuck and I had talked the other day. We don't really have we're not allowed to, by the transportation code, to weigh vehicles, so that weight restricting vehicles is not really an option. We did find the city ordinance that allows us to prohibit truck traffic, but those roads that are going to be restricted would have to be signed to comply with the ordinance. So we can sit down and talk about which ones those need to be, and then get commission approval, I think, to do them. Still checking into what the appropriate sign would be, and I don't know what all goes into that kind of thing.
So we are looking at trying to restrict truck traffic on 4th Avenue at this point. I did talk to TxDOT on oversized and overweight items that they would permit. They wouldn't see anything going down Brown Road in terms of their permit. Just so everybody knows, if you have an overweight truck or oversized truck, you have to get a directed route from TxDOT to do that as well as a permit. And they basically said we wouldn't choose to go down to Brown Road. I know there were some of those concerns out there in the audience, but I think at this time, in terms of 4th Avenue, we would like to look into prohibiting semi-traffic from going from Brown Road down to from 4th from Brown Road down to 11th. We would like to hear back from y'all on that. You heard Steve basically indicate we cannot do weight restriction, but we can just do no semis.
So it'd be on numbers of accidents, I guess. Is that what?
I don't know. What do you think on that?
I think it's gross vehicle weight.
Gross vehicle weight.
Would we run into any businesses, Joe, that would need to have a semi-delivery?
I don't think there's any commercial within that, so it would end right there at Pacasag. The only possibly would be going to the schools.
Schools are
I
moving.
don't know if semi-traffic goes to any of those campuses. So that would be the only hardship through there that I can think of.
Also, Allsup's on down by the junior high.
And then also by the junior high, those would be. What was that?
I see the beer truck at
Yeah.
Joe Taco's.
The beer truck. We'll be limiting the. Well, no, that also can't have beer. So.
But just deliveries
Mhm.
and school deliveries to the
Yeah,
junior
and school
high.
deliveries, those would be impacted. They would have to take they had to take an alternate route. Unless we refined maybe to the railroad tracks or something less than going to 11th Street. We could always we'd do that scope where that traffic wouldn't go that way. They're not coming from Brown Road that way anyways. They're coming from 11th Street over that way or from 23rd back that way.
And those trucks, I don't think are a matter of great concern, those delivery trucks. What we're trying to do is prevent those 50,000-pound rigs that haul gravel and rock from coming from the quarries onto 4th Avenue. That's really the intent. So we got to refine that approach a little bit.
But we'd like some feedback on that from the commission if you want your staff to move forward at doing that. I know we had talked about it briefly. We have not come to any conclusions. We needed to determine if it was legal or not, and we have determined it as such. Other than that, that's all I've got on Brown Road from, and I'll turn it over to Gary, but we do need some feedback on the semi-truck traffic.
As far as communication with the county, part of our communication right now has just been the engineering from Freeze and Nichols. They changed up the amount from 130 to roughly $150,000. So that was just a discussion on what that was, are we acceptable of going forward that way. The county has said that they were good doing right at splitting the right at 150,000. I think at this point, one item that we've got to make sure we're on the same page, we came out of our meeting saying that we were moving forward, good splitting that, but that our intent was to widen the road and to widen the road for the future, and then also to allow for the crossing. So, our ask has not been to help with the quiet crossing, but our ask is to help widen the road. And the thought is just that's a major thoroughfare going south into the county, and just if we're going to do it right. Plus, that also allows the quiet crossing as well. So that's where we landed, and so making sure that the county is good going that direction. I think I'm not positive if they've set really width of the road where they want. So I think as we move forward with the engineering, I think we need to give them instructions what our expectations are, and all to Freeze and Nichols, I would think. Does that sound right? And I guess there could be two alternatives, but it would take more engineering to get it though.
Depends on, I think the main thing, Mayor, depends on whether or not we pretty much force the quiet zone aspect of it, because that could be, some cost savings there if we just basically rebuild the thing at the current width versus having to widen it somewhat for quiet.
Right, and so, yeah, I think our thought is then that widening it for the quiet zone, but also for the future, if we rebuild this road for the next 50 years and it's becomes a major thoroughfare and gets out, that's an investment we should make while we're doing it. But
I would agree with that.
So is it our sense now that we don't think that they want to help widen it at all?
We're not, I don't think we're sure.
I don't have the communication to know that they're willing to go that direction yet. So I apologize, have had really my communication with the judge. She's been out of town, I think, in the last, several days. So.
But y'all met with them since last meeting, right?
Not us.
Yeah. Okay.
No, not us. Gary's been heading that conversation. Chuck, do you want to?
Well, I did send an email to Mr. Gord, and I expect to hear back from him concerning just confirmation on the widening and the QZ. I don't know if he's in the office or not right now, but I expect to hear back from him just by way of confirmation. Make sure the county's on board with it, because the county commission recently approved the FNI contract, and I got a copy of it from Richard, but I did not nail down the specifics on if they're okay with the widening and the QZ as an alternate bid. So that's really what my inquiry was about.
So we do need to get that tied down, you know, sooner the better to where we can move forward. Get the engineering done and move forward with the project. But there will be the railroad piece too, in the middle too, you know, that asks to step up with that $180,000.
Yeah, and I did talk to Freeze and Nichols on that piece to verify. They were trying to double check that cost was still pretty accurate. So we were waiting to hear back on that piece. And then Gary and the judge were gonna make that phone call to SF with a specific dollar amount. So I do think we will defer the rest of this time.
Do you want a motion for?
I would like to have some conversation on
Truck
this,
traffic.
on the truck traffic. We will defer part of this conversation to closed session. We would like to have feedback on the semi, if y'all are good with us moving forward to prohibit semi-traffic down Fourth. Obviously, I think we need to rectify, make sure we don't have an issue with our school campuses, and
You said it'd be Fourth down to 11th.
that's what we originally were talking about, yeah. We cannot limit it on TxDOT Highway, and that's where TxDOT starts out.
That's my biggest concern, is school traffic. Just take one bad thing to happen, we'd be kicking ourselves. I'd like to see it happen.
Is that based on a forever deal or a temporary?
I mean, obviously, y'all could take it down whenever you decided to take action. Yes, I would think forever, that's what I'm proposing.
It's worth looking into, definitely. I think I would study to see how many or what size delivery type trucks would have to come into that area. And determine if there'd be some sort of exception, if we did that, how that would look. Because there's, I don't know, alternate, otherwise you're gonna be on neighborhood streets trying to get to some of those areas, and that's not a good thing either.
We could regulate it by gross vehicle weight, right?
I think it's just semi-traffic, is that?
Well, our problem with the gross vehicle weight is we are not in the category of municipalities that can get an officer qualified, and then we'd have to buy scales. In order to enforce it, we would have no enforcement mechanism unless we send an officer to school, and that's what Steve and I were talking about the other day, to become certified to use those scales to weigh vehicles. Because if we limited it to gross vehicle weight of 26,000 pounds, then that would take care of most delivery trucks and rule out, you know, the concrete trucks and gravel haulers. Okay. The problem is, in order to enforce that, we'd have to be able to weigh the trucks.
I think I've seen bridge signs that would just limit the number of axles, so maybe you couldn't have more than that.
That's worth checking into. That's worth checking into, Mayor, and we'd like to do that because, you know,
Let us bring some options back. We just want to make sure y'all are good with us moving forward down this route. Otherwise, we're not gonna waste any more time.
Well, probably not. Y'all seem to like it.
We can bring back axles or,
And I think that would be worth looking into, because, I mean, even on axles, though, we'd have to determine a little bit farther than that in my mind, even just because you're thinking pickups with a trailer that's carrying
Yeah.
multiple things that aren't technically a semi, might have the same number of axles as a semi.
all thoughts on your end?
Well, I just think you're going down the road of more regulations,
Was that a pun intended?
more regulations, more money, more this and that, stifling economic development. I just don't think that's what I'd like to see.
Let us look into it more and bring it back. And then y'all can make the call.
Joe, if I may,
Sir?
we can't forget Sixth Avenue, because if we divert them off Fourth, they're just gonna go down Sixth, so don't forget about Sixth Avenue.
Correct, there's
No,
another crossing there.
that's what
Semis
we're-
don't cross this track.
There's that can of worms already opened.
I know. So, Yeah, good point, Dan, thank you. Let's bring it back. And we'll defer this conversation for legal discussion in closed session, Mr. Mayor, just to be noted.
All right, item number 7, consider and take appropriate action on second and final reading of resolution number 33-2023. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon approving a project funding agreement between Nestor Apiary LLC and Canyon Economic Development Corporation relating to direct financial assistance for business expansion for a business in Canyon. Stephanie.
Hey guys, I'm super excited about this project. This project started at the farmer's market with our friends at Honey Creek Farms, and now they're doing their third expansion. So this money will actually go into equipment, and it'll actually go into adding a couple employees, full-time and part-time employees, in the amount of $100,000.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 33-2023 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 33-2023 as presented. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Gretchen and I will abstain on this one. All right. Then item number 8, consider and take appropriate action on second and final reading of resolution number 34-2023, a resolution of the Commission of the City of Canyon approving a project funding agreement between Pondasset Brewing Company LLC and Canyon Economic Development Corporation relating to direct financial assistance for business expansion for a new business in Canyon, Texas.
Not too long ago, we were able to come to y'all about this expansion plan in cooperation with our first 380 with the city. So they were had the opportunity to expand faster than they were thinking they were going to have the ability to. So this $50,000 will actually go to their expansion, that they'll actually get to have the ability to make more of their products here in Canyon.
To adopt resolution number 34-2023 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as presented. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Stephanie. Great project.
Mayor May, are you abstaining from that one as well?
All right, item number 9, consider and take appropriate action on ordinance number 1182, annexing territory to the City of Canyon, the Lumberyard LTD, an ordinance of the City of Canyon, Texas, annexing the territory here described to the City of Canyon and Randall County, Texas, extending the boundary limit of the City of Canyon to include the property herein described within the said city limits, and granting to all the inhabitants of said property all the rights and privileges of other citizens, and binding said inhabitants by all the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city. Chuck, looks like you're presenting this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. There is a memo in your agenda packet that recites that back on July 20th of 2023, the Commission accepted the petition for voluntary annexation submitted by the Lumberyard Limited, and also adopted a resolution scheduling dates for publications and public hearings. We have had all the publications required by law and the public hearings at this point. Ordinance 1182 is ripe for a vote tonight, annexing the territory of the Lumberyard to the City of Canyon. Following the memo, there is a pretty good depiction of where it lies within the ETJ of Canyon. That is projected to become a part of the City of Canyon after adoption of Ordinance 1182, which is in your agenda packet. So it's our recommendation that the Commission adopt Ordinance 1182, annexing the Lumberyard into the corporate limits.
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance 1182, annexing the whole lumberyard.
Second.
have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1182. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the ordinance signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
We got the green light to design and bid. I'm looking at both y'all, one with the other. Please move forward on the utility expansion project.
Item number 10, consider and take appropriate action on interlocal agreement with PRPC for grant management services of hazard mitigation grant project master plan. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did a kickoff meeting for this project about maybe a month ago. We have been awarded the grant for a master drainage plan for our community. The amount is $250,000. Our match is $25,000 of that $250,000. PRPC helped us apply for this grant. The grant completely covers in a separate amount of money the administration costs for that project management. So if anybody has any other questions, pretty straightforward stuff, just like we do with community development block grants. They will do the project administration of this grant project on our behalf. And this is going through TDM.
Move to authorize the mayor to sign an interlocal cooperation agreement with PRPC to grant management services regarding the city of Keenan's hazard mitigation grant.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right, item number 11, consider and take appropriate action on bids received for the 18-inch force main replacements project serving the wastewater treatment and irrigation facility. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor. Joe and I were talking the other day about how this is kind of an exciting time for us in Public Works. It's been a while since we've done some major projects. We've had a handful of development-related smaller projects over the last few years, and it's pretty exciting to have these projects, these next three items in front of you guys. I can't remember in my 20 years ever having three projects of this size on the same agenda, so it's pretty exciting for us. This first one is, if you think back about 20 years, we did some force main replacement out on Hicks Road. It's hard for me to understand also, it's been 20 years since we did that project. Shoot, it seems like it was 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a project that we've had in the works ever since. Just haven't been able to fund it or find the money to finish that project. It will finish the remainder of the force main going to the farm, and a project that's 40 odd years old. So I think that facility was built in like 1983 or somewhere around there. Chuck probably knows. Anyway, yeah, we had 5 bids. They ranged from 1.67 million to 2.58 million. The low bid was submitted by Amarillo Utility Contractors in the amount of $1,674,060 and a completion time of 200 days. We're just a little bit over budget. We added some stuff kind of at the last minute to the project. On the original 2 miles, we've had the same air release valves in that whole system for all these years, and the department wanted to see if we could change out all the air release valves. I think there's 12 all along the line, and that added about $200,000 to the project. So that's the reason we're a little bit over budget. You can see the sketch there that I included showing you the location of the project. It's out on Hicks from County Road 283 on into the farm. We'd recommend the award to AUC in $1,674,060.
I had a question earlier for Joe, just digging in on this one, but then looking at, I think it's the next item too, for Meyer Park. And so maybe I think what the ARPA, my opinion is, a lot of this being put out there, and I don't know if that's right, Adolfo, but bids coming in that much higher, especially on the next item. But my question is, where are we getting the money to take care of the extra? And so I think, sounds like out of reserves, but, you know, from the numbers I've seen earlier, our reserves are kind of at the line where, you know, we need them to be. It's not like we've got a couple of million extra in reserves and all. And so my question is, maybe specifically on this project, I'd like to see a picture of where the reserves are, and I don't know if we've had a chance to be able to do that and see that, so.
Mayor, if I might, Finance and Joe and I have all had some conversations kind of at the 11th hour this afternoon to try to address some of your concerns.
Okay, good.
And I think Joe will probably have a little bit of explanation, and or Finance could probably have a little bit better explanation on that than I could.
Thank you.
That's all right.
What Joe just handed you was the cash reserve as of August 31. Of course, we still have another month, and it's the last month of the fiscal year, so it's a high cash flowing out month. So we're likely going to be below our minimum reserve at the end of the year. So I'm suggesting we find other ways to find the cash for these increases, namely delayed spending and some other things that we have ability to choose.
So you're saying delays spending on other projects, not the projects that are being presented today?
That's correct.
And how did we,
Prioritizing.
how did we prioritize that?
These ARPA projects, we have a timeline that we gotta meet. So we've gotta have obligated funds, actually contracts in place by December 31. And then we have to have the money spent by the end of 2026. But the more urgent part of that is having bids in place, already having done contracts and.
By the end of the year, 2024.
24, next year.
And the current concern is that everyone's trying to spend their ARPA funds, and so these contractors are gonna get less and less of them. The price is likely going up because of that, the supply and demand.
It's helping drive inflation right now. Those type items.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess the question, and I wish in hindsight, and I guess we're not able to do it now, but I wish we had done alternative bids for the ads, because that would be possibly 200 we could pull out of there.
So we did
Is
check
a
that.
possibility?
Yeah, unfortunately, I will remove the existing airflow valves to reduce the cost.
We can't do.
We can do that, yes. It just cannot exceed 25%. That amount is exactly 110,000. So if we remove that scope that was added, that puts us down to a bid cost of 1.563 million. And I've got this to hand out, Gary. I'll hand it out here in a second. It still puts us 117,000 over what we originally prescribed, which, I mean, that's fine. So we're still 117,000 we gotta find. So, overall, the utility line relocation for TechStop project that we're gonna award here in a minute is a planned project. We're being required to move that line without reimbursement on FM 2590 when they do the intersection improvements. So that's $123,750 we have to come up with on our own.
Did we get that in the budget?
No.
So that's gonna come out of reserves or something?
Well, I'm gonna get there. So there's 123,750, and then Myra Park is 427,000 over budget for the utility extension.
looking at the 3 projects alone sitting here, then we would have to come up with $668,000.
That's correct. $668,764. We do have our CDBG project that has not been bid out as well. So we're not sure where that's gonna come in. That'll bid out, are you 95% design? How close are you on?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably get it out.
Above ground? Which
No, CDBG project, that's happening over, west of 23rd, was that 17th, 18th?
Oh, right.
So it's a little under 800,000.
The water and sewer replacement,
sewer
those two
replacement.
alleys over here.
From 2 years ago. Yeah, so that one's almost going to bid, so we still got that project too, so we just cannot forget that.
We have the water line crossing on I-27 for the new highway.
Which is in the budget, that is in the budget, so.
It does make you wonder if all these are gonna come higher than projected because every municipality's doing it.
So far, I mean, I don't think we can expect anything less. We've opened up the golf irrigation ones as well. Those have also come in more than budget. I mean, everything's coming in high.
Everything seems to be running about 15-20% higher than what we expected.
And the great thing is on the force main, y'all, we got 5 bids. That's pretty awesome, getting 5 bids. Would you say, Dan?
It's been a while since we've had 5 bids.
No, which was pretty remarkable.
It's my experience right now that the contractors are looking for work, so it's getting a little competitive right now, so that's why you're getting the 5 bids.
They are looking for work?
They are right now, so.
So why are our bids coming in that much higher?
Like I said, part of it was the stuff that was added to the job, along the design process, that the requests to add certain things.
Yeah, my
So
report,
we can go
Same thing.
in, Myra Park, we can go in a little more detail. Go ahead, Adolfo.
So Myra Park originally was supposed to be on the west side of the road for the sewer line, and once it got moved to the east side, we had additional boring and another crossing on 2590. If you look at the bid for the 2590 crossing project, that smaller line alone is $120,000, and now we have an additional 15-inch line crossing there. So just added cost to the job as it went into the design portion. As the scope changed, then the cost went up. Added with the inflation, that's where that comes from. So, mixed factors in there, but right now it is a little competitive if we bid everything around right now, because I am getting calls from contractors looking for additional work.
We've got Joel and Bo and I and John working on where we're gonna cut, and those cuts are listed right there in this document that we handed out in order to get there. As a reminder, the ARPA project is the force main, so we're just gonna add the $117,184 from ARPA money. That lowers our 4th Street Pump Station project dollar amount to $2.36 million. That one's still waiting on the electrical engineer at this point. Adolfo is ready to go on his end as well, so.
Are there pieces, this project, the force main looks like one that, would have been easy to put some different alternatives in. The groundwater storage, do we have that ability as we bid that out to do some of that too, to where
Yeah.
hopefully ARPA funds would cover all of those pieces and all, so.
Dan, Adolfo, you want to speak to that?
There's a lot of demolition that'll have to take place that could be an alternate bid that doesn't have to be awarded or done at the same time. It can be done later. And then some minor things like fencing that could be adjusted that don't have to necessarily be awarded now. And there'll be some cost savings in that. But mostly the demolition. Demolition adds to the labor and time of the project.
We'll have to we will have to demolition the whole tank no matter what.
Yeah.
So,
One of them, but the rest, the other tanks on site don't have to be.
Don't have to be.
So.
And Mayor, speaking more directly to your question, as far as the force main project is concerned, it is what it is. There's really no fluff in that other than those air release valves.
Right, other than maybe we put in a mile less or something,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you shorten the project, but then you don't get tied into the ponds.
It's a new project, that'd be a new project that we have to rebid.
We're doing 10,000 feet, so we could do the 1 mile that gets us to the west part of the plant, but we still have another mile to go.
Well, and John's right, then you're getting into a rebid situation, which, once the contractors see each other's numbers, it won't do anything but go up.
Is there an issue with the air release valves cutting some of that out? Would there be, I mean,
No, it's just an operational thing that we can deal with. However, in the upcoming budget, I plan to go ahead and budget to get those things fixed and put back in. And then there are four, you'll notice on the bid tab sheet, there are 4 that have to go in on the new line. And there are 8 more along the rest of the line that were to be replaced. And those are the 8 that we were talking
He will
about.
do the ones on the line that's
The
being
4 on the new line have to go in
just a
on the
way
new
to
line.
replace the additional, gotcha, okay.
Well, and if we did get good bids on the groundwater storage, that's something we could always go back to too. And then
Absolutely.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
Chuck, we've crossed over about 10 different agenda items.
I know.
Can I readdress another agenda item that they spoke about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so on Myra Park, explain again the increase.
So when it was a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, when we came up with the estimate to run sewer service and water service going north from Hunsley and 2590, we were on the west side of the road. That's where the sewer line is stubbed out, was ready for expansion going north. Those plans have changed, so the sewer line has to now be on the east side of
What
2590.
changed? Why did those plans change?
taking too long to, it's gonna take some time.
Didn't get the
Quite-
easement.
It was land
Take quite a
acquisition.
bit of acquisition.
So then we have to go north on the east side or under the existing parking lots and access roads for Madison Park. And then to bore under 2590 again, which we wouldn't have had to do originally, then there's that added cost. So that came up after that initial estimate. That's
Correct.
And another key thing that as you get closer to Madison Park, there's rock. And it's more expensive to lay pipe in rock than it is in soil. So they don't really know exactly what the conditions are gonna be 4, 5, 8 feet below the ground, but they know there's rock in there. They just don't know where it is because we didn't do any soil testing or anything along that route to let them know. It's just more expensive to build in rock than it is soil.
So Dan, back on the regular bid of right and Ron, air release valve, if we don't do them now, when you do them later, how much more are they gonna be?
Wish I had a crystal ball, Paul.
But there will be more probably, huh?
Undoubtedly.
yeah.
And I'll send the whole crew out to do just 8 items.
In my 19 years, nothing's gone down.
I agree with that. So you need to think about that. If you're gonna take them out now, it's gonna cost you another 50,000.
It will, it will, Paul, no doubts, at least.
So where are we getting the money, Paul?
We got reserve, you got $4 million in reserve.
Yeah, we're already at the minimum.
That don't make any difference.
It does at our bond rating, which we're talking about being important here coming up.
Don't do it then. I think you're wasting money. My opinion.
So if we drop down in the reserves, then that would make our bond rating increase.
That's one of the things we got criticized for last time.
Okay.
We're trying to keep it as it is, as best we can.
X amount of months of operation.
Yeah, well, 15% minimum in utility and 25% in general, so.
That don't mean they'll lower it.
It doesn't necessarily, no. We don't know that for sure. One good thing, the other thing they criticized us for is unplanned projects. This has been a planned project, so. And they also criticized for the economy. There was a bunch, but we've been trying really hard, is what Gary's saying, is trying to hold the line on our bottom cash.
Okay.
So,
So when would we get the ARPA funds?
we have them. It's all sitting.
Okay.
They're on hand, right?
Yes, they are on hand, 3.93 million.
Correct.
Yes.
So really, for that part of the project, we could use all ARPA funds and not dip into reserves for the force main.
Correct. You could use all the ARPA funds, Gary. The ARPA funds are not in this $4 million in our cash reserves. They're not in that number. That is an excluded number. The only thing that will happen, if you do the ARPA funds for that, it will lower your availability for 4th Street Pump Station.
It just shortens the funds available for the tank project.
And could we put enough alternatives on that project where
We tried to
come
do that.
close?
We're already starting to look at that.
We are looking.
As of today.
we're raising some, I think in your perfect world, construction time on that,
The tank project, probably a year.
not in the summer, looking at.
So the tank.
Well, we'd like to see the tank part of the project constructed in the fall and winter during the low demand. Now, however that timing works, to me, that means we need to probably award the project first of the year. And that'll give us the 90 days to do the contracts, and then they start their demo and all this other work during the spring or spring and summer, and then come fall, when the water demand drops, then that's the time to build the tank. And we'd like to time it that way, if possible.
We can delay that project. We just have to have a contract in place by December of 2024.
And then complete it by 26.
Correct.
On the ARPA funds, by moving those funds over to cover these costs, that's an allowable cost that could be attributed
It's
to.
not specified to project.
Okay,
We have done that on our own.
okay.
Water, sewer, and broadband, right?
Operations.
Oh, it's okay.
Default for operations.
So I apologize for being in error in my memo, because I thought the ARPA stuff was basically aimed at water, sewer, and broadband.
Yes, Gary, we could do that. We could move some ARPA funds. We will be short on 4th Street if we do that.
But can we put in alternatives to get close on
Yes.
4th Street
What-
though? to
What
where-
we're gonna do is do the alternatives, but we're also asking the engineer to get some true cost numbers, making phone calls to actual contractors to get costs. So I've already pushed that in play with the DOFO.
Paul, I don't disagree if it's gonna cost 50% more next year, and we're gonna do it next year anyway. This doesn't really tag our reserves, it's the Myra Park deal coming up then, that's really.
Correct.
Reserve.
That's right. That's completely out of cash. More than likely, we'll have to raise some of our funds to get the 4th Street pump station, to get to that total dollar amount. We have recommended some cuts here. We're obviously agreeable to a conversation on that, to hear what y'all have to say. But
So really, you'll have 4 projects that you're trying to fund. ARPA funds, 10 reserves. And what you're proposing, as it stands without this, violates our reserve policy.
It could possibly
Help me
decrease
finance.
it below.
yes,
We're gonna be at the low end, probably below the minimum by the end of the fiscal year anyway. So using reserves is kind of off the table in my opinion. If we're gonna have to cut some of these other places, it's a policy that we have set.
We set a policy
Yeah, but you
that said,
if you needed to, you can use it without violation. It's what Gary's worried about, is when they come in to audit us, if they don't like it.
I'm aware of that, but we set a policy of a maximum and a minimum. And this is gonna put us below our minimum.
when that does occur, it triggers the finance director and city manager to create a plan of how we are gonna refund or put those monies back in. But it takes an authorization of this body to do that, I believe, from the
Yeah,
policy.
and I think the plan is what the auditor or your call will be looking at too.
But Joel and I would do a plan of how we're gonna replenish those dollars to get us back within the range.
That's what would be presented to the bond people at the time to check.
I've had a little bit of turn of thought. I think this project's not so critical to our reserves then. And if we can really work on the groundwater, piece of it, storage piece, then, the 100,000, if it's gonna cost us 150 next year, in my opinion, probably makes sense to go ahead and do, but try to work on staying within the ARPA funds on the other. I think there's more discussion on the next item on the reserve piece, maybe. So,
Just 2 points while we're talking these projects, just I want to note, kind of holistically. One, we've probably never done this amount of projects at this degree ever in our history. And 2, inflation is up 15 to 20%.
17.
And these just projects all happen to be hitting at the same time.
We have, but it was a long time ago. We had 2 tanks and a pump station being built at the same time and all that. We had like $9 million worth of work going at one time.
Getting close to that, and then this is probably 5 to 6. Not arguing, just being correct. You need to dial it down. You're getting too loud.
Hey, I'm proud of all that work we did out there.
You should be. You should be. Well, Commission, what's your pleasure on this? Do you want us, at this point, we're good to go ahead and award this project, and we do have the authority to remove the valves after the fact. I tend to side with Dan on trying not to do that if we don't have to. However, I'm going to have to make the money up for the 4th Street pump station and maybe slow it down just a little bit to make those funds up. I'll know more once the engineer can get us some conversation on numbers.
And we can legally change order up to 25% up or down out of this amount, so.
We can.
After we sign contracts, so.
Can.
But if we can make up the difference out of ARPA and the next,
We
instead
can.
of reserves, I still go back, if it's gonna cost us 50% more next year, unless we're gonna put it off 10 years, then, but if we're gonna do it next year.
We've already put it off 20. We've put it, this has been on the books for 20, this project has been on our books for 20 years.
Those are a suggested improvement. That's not a crisis improvement on those air vents, correct?
I think it's probably more needed than most things that we would take off.
Okay.
Operationally, they are necessary. I'll just leave it at that.
To replace though at this point.
Yes. Or to have them, and then when they go bad, replace them. Yes.
Your staff would recommend ordering Amarillo utility contractors, the lowest bid of $1.674 million.
I move to award the bid for the 18th Force Main Replacement Project to Amarillo Utility Contractors in the amount of $1.674 million and $60.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to award the bid to Amarillo Utility Contractors. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right. Item number 12, consider and take appropriate action on bids received for water and sewer system extensions to serve the Myra Park subdivision. Dan?
Thanks, Mayor. I think we've kind of carried over into a couple other items when we may not should have, so I'm not going to say a whole lot about this. It's all right there in front of you. Scott Whopper Construction was the low bid at $1,479,580 and also 200 days. This just extends the water and sewer service to the new subdivision known as Myra Park at the southwest corner of Country Club and FM 2590. We would recommend that the bid be awarded to Scott Walper Construction in that amount.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion, I would like to discuss just a little bit more on the reserves. So I'm figuring the total of these items here would be $443,000. So that really covers this piece of it for the most part. I guess bottom line, are we able to do some of those things to keep from hitting our reserves? And Joe, you brought up a point earlier today too, that until we have building occupancy permits.
Correct.
That we are carrying the cost for the developer.
Yes.
So that potentially has to come out of reserves too.
So we have 1.051, that's what we have in cash.
Okay.
So we have 829,000 right now. When we go into the new fiscal year, we'll be up to 1.0 million. So the only thing we don't have in cash is 427,830. Is that correct, Bo?
That's correct.
Okay, so that could come out of the
Yes, some of the projects that I
Some of
have.
these other projects.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And so that's the only cash that we're short.
And it also might be noted that assuming that the entire subdivision develops, we're not getting our $450 from the developer right away, but ultimately
Oh, I see.
we'll get $450,000 when the thing fully develops.
500 houses.
If we needed to at a point, would there be the ability to borrow that portion of the funds?
I think that's probably, in all our experience with borrowing money, you should not borrow less than $3 million is what the finance, our
For interest rate purposes?
yes, for interest rate and loan,
Closing costs.
closing costs and, financial fees, what do you call that, to issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that. That's what Jason always tells Joel and I. And that sound about right, 3 million. I think it's better to just bite our lip and sacrifice and do it, and so.
But for right now, between the cuts and that, we're pretty well there.
I think so, yes. I mean, obviously, we don't want to make those cuts, but, I mean, things are coming in high. We got to do something. And we do have 225,000 that we have accrued in interest, just so you see above the cuts, Gary.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
that has helped.
Good.
Being that we've had this cash in the CIP, it has accrued our interest over that time. All the interest that we have had accrued is going towards the overruns, thank you, of this project.
It's not just us, y'all. Joe and I are involved somewhat with TxDOT on a lot of their projects, and they're seeing the same things. It's not just us.
Yeah.
The MPO's having to come up with extra money.
We cannot stall this project. This project needs to move forward. It also has a 200-day.
Well, I'm not wanting to do that. I think we're excited about moving forward and with the project and the subdivision for King. It's just, how do we do it? This is tough to discuss. So, well, with that, unless there's other discussion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right, item number 13, consider and take appropriate action on bids received for the 12-inch water main relocation at Hunsley Road and FEM 2590. Dan?
Well, we saved the best for last, I guess. At least it's the cheapest. But, well, like Joe said earlier, this is completely unannounced. Y'all are aware, I'm sure, that TxDOT's got an upcoming project on FM 2590 to redo basically all the intersections from here to Amarillo. They threw some storm sewer in on the Hunsley Road intersection that is now in conflict with our 12-inch water line crossing. So it conflicts in elevation, so we're gonna have to go in there and lower our water line to avoid that. And that's what this project, that's what this project addresses. We had just 3 bids on this job, anywhere from $124,000 to $233,000. And Scott Wampler came in low again at $123,750 in 60 days to complete. That's about it. We'd recommend the award to Scott Wampler in the amount of $123,750.
5 bids.
We do have 5?
Yeah.
Couldn't remember which one we had 3 for. Oh, it was the Meyer Park was 3. My bad. Same 5 we had on we actually bid the force main and this project at the same time. That's why we had 5 bidders on both of those. Right? Yeah.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes.
Thanks much.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. One police vehicle as budgeted for fiscal year 2024. Chief Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will be a lot easier than all that. More fun. So, we budgeted this year for a police pickup. That'll be it'll be loaded with all the other police equipment. We've talked to the the people we deal with to outfit and purchase our vehicles, there's a pickup on the ground that we can get our hooks in right now that we would like to go ahead and get because of all the problems we had in the past year obtaining vehicles. And of course, the auto workers are on strike now, so that can't help anything. We're simply requesting permission to go ahead and put an intent to purchase on this vehicle and get them started working on it. We budgeted an amount of $70,394 for the pickup with all the equipment that goes inside of it. And then, of course, that's paid out over 5 years, I think, with the city's leasing program. We also have a separate line item for a radio, two-way communication radio that goes in the vehicle. We budgeted $11,644 for that. The outfitting company does have the radio in stock, so we'd like to combine those two line items and go ahead and make the intent to purchase so that we can get our hooks in all of that. I do have a quote from the company. It didn't get here till this weekend, so we weren't able to get it into the budget at all. But the quotes do show that the overall cost of the pickup, including the radios, $81,285.86. With the amount we have budgeted for the pickup and the amount we have budgeted for the radio itself, that still brings us about $750 under.
I move to allow the police department to commit to the purchase of one police vehicle and a police vehicle.
I have a motion second to approve the purchase. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Thank you, James.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, item number 15, presentation of the strategic communications plan. Megan?
So mine's way easier than absolutely everyone's because this doesn't even need action. I just kind of wanted to give you an update on everything that I've been working on over about the past 13 months. So this plan is part of the 2021 strategic communication plan, and I did all of this while going through the Certified Public Communicator program at Texas Christian University. It's there. It's in the second. There it is. If only, can we get the second one off? We're gonna figure it out. But in general, the strategic communications plan does span over 4 years. So it starts in this next fiscal year and goes all the way to FY 26-27. The plan in general covers internal, external, and crisis communications, which is what I do. And the plan does continue to change. It's a PDF right now, but as we've seen even in the last 6 months, media and social and really everything in general has continued to change and update, and it is never a standstill thing of what happens.
You may have to come close this stupid window.
Small screen, yeah.
You can slide it from the middle. That's why you don't get it back.
Ah, thank you. Here, we're at the
You did that.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So I started with a summary of the plan, which is really just as the communication and community engagement continues to build my department, we're really going to approach our communications with transparency and initiative. A little bit of backstory for those of y'all who aren't here. I was hired in March of 2021 and I started the communications and community engagement department. It used to be a collaboration between Joe and John and Gretchen and one of our assistant library directors, and it was really a group effort, but Thank y'all for hiring me. I appreciate being here. But since it was a brand new department, I have worked on the last couple of years building the department from the ground up of really what we need, what our goals can be, and what we can be doing in the future. And in general, we're hoping to use the strengths of the organization to provide new services as well as improving current services for employees, residents, and our stakeholders. And really, now is the time to focus on internal and crisis. As far as our external and crisis went, we were really focusing on COVID for a really long time. And so once I kind of started the department, we got to do a little bit more of the fun stuff. Will you go up one? I also added what does the Communications and Community Engagement Department actually do. You'll see CCE throughout. That's just me. I'm a department of one. I am part of the Admin Services Department with HR and IT and Gretchen, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a general idea.
City management.
City management is its own thing. You're there sometimes, but you'll see these icons throughout the entire presentation, but in general, I wanted to show kind of what I do on most days. Okay, now we can go next. How we got here, like I said, I went through the TCU program. We did, if y'all remember, back in the spring, we did a citywide communications survey in collaboration with WT. We had 1,300 responses to that, and I'll go over it a little bit more in a little bit. But I've also continued to do FEMA trainings as well as collaboration with all of our senior staff who are involved in this. All of the internal stuff that you'll see has been in collaboration with HR. He and I have been doing it pretty much together the whole time. I'm sad he's not here today. He's having a really great vacation though, so I really can't blame him for not being here. And then I also talked to our TAMIO members quite a bit. TAMIO is Texas Association of Municipal Information Officers, so it's all the me's all over the state. And then details in the plan that you won't see here in the presentation but are in the actual PDF are the SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for all of our communication channels. Each one of our strategies will have a measurable outcome and timeline for each of the projects, so it's not like we're just hoping to do this and we'll see where it goes, but they're very clear and determined timelines for all of these. There's a backup plan for the times that I'm not here physically. The editorial calendar is really a general social calendar of what each year looks like, because just about every department has a day or a week or a month or a way to highlight all of the different departments on social media and through our communications. And then we go through our inbound and outbound channels as well. Like I said, those will update year to year, but this was as of right now. Our communications survey, like I said, we got 1,300 responses, which I would call that a really great response rate. We promoted that through our utility water bills as well as through social media. I found these kind of some of the more interesting ones. These are not saying that the stats are going to be who all of the people we're communicating to are, but really these are the people who want to be more engaged in our city communications. So that tells us a little bit more about people who really want to be involved and really want to hear from us and really want to know what's going on. One of the things I found most interesting was that 25% of people said that they would prefer for the city to increase its communications through social media. Social media is a really powerful tool. We have, I want to say 15 accounts over multiple platforms between Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're dissolving our Twitter just because Twitter X is a little bit of a mess right now and it isn't being very friendly to governments in general. And I've seen that as a trend kind of all over the state. But that's kind of where we're at, and we'll go into where we're going, which is our next slide, which I'm the most excited about. It's a very, very small change. Most of y'all haven't noticed. I've actually started doing this over the last 6 months. But we are updating our brand a little bit to where currently it is going to be the red and the orange like you'll see behind you. But then it'll turn into a single color, which is more of a rust brick dirt color, which you can see Lucas sporting because they've already started that.
A comment from Commissioner Jones would be to fix the Y in Canyon.
Actually, that was never my complaint. That was Justin Richardson.
So, and smaller, tiny things that people might not have noticed, we cleaned up the city of. In some versions, it's a little squished. The Texas bar at the bottom, part of it's not centered, as well as it doesn't go all the way to the outside of the inn. It goes to the line at the inn. Teeny tiny things no one will really notice, but it's been driving me nuts for the last 2 years. Thank you. So I'm pretty excited about these updates. Part of this is that it will also save us money, both in printing and in embroidery, because currently those are 3 to 4 to 5 colors, kind of depending. You'll see in some different versions the white that's behind the canyon and the O is also blue. I've seen it red before. I've seen it about 1,000 different colors. With this will come our branding guidelines, which are available on the actual document, but this will be a really hard and strict branding guideline for all of our sub-brands as well. So that includes the CAP, police, EDC, really anyone that we have brand control over will be a little bit stricter. We'll move to a more centralized font and color brand and things like that. But one of the also very exciting things is that with the work of IT, we've moved to a .gov recently. Gary, I don't know if you remember, we had you sign that paper about a year ago. And so that's a really exciting thing. All of our emails will move to .gov. We will still receive .com emails, but that's something that I've been working on with IT for about a year now. And then also part of this will be that we're trademarking this logo. Shout out to Lucas for finding Walmart's secret corner where they have our City of Canyon logo plastered on mugs right now, just because we have no control over this brand as a whole. And so we'll really work towards getting that more in our court. You can go to the next one. The larger goals for this plan for internal would be to educate, encourage, and engage our employees. Retention is a really big thing, I know, not only to y'all, but to HR and admin services, and so that will be a really big driving point in that. For external comms, we're looking for transparency, community engagement, and public outreach. I know that people, as much as they say they receive a lot of communication, there's still a lot of confusion about things. One of the biggest things that I've seen confusion on social media lately is at least what's going on with Brown Road. And so I really applaud what's the transparency in what we do, because I think that helps answer a lot of questions, and I think that helps answer people's what ifs and who to call and who to find information from. And then for crisis comms, it'll be really to stock up on my FEMA training as well as social media and crisis comm press releases. I know it seems silly to say, oh, okay, I'm going to have about 20 plus press releases of all the worst things that could happen in the city, but that makes things, especially in that golden hour of once a crisis happens and the hour after that of when we need to start getting information out, that makes things go a lot faster. And so once those things are all templated out, I can just go in, put all the different information that I need, and send it out as quickly as humanly possible. The next couple of slides are really just year over year. I went ahead and just did years because it seemed a little bit easier to visualize. But year 0 is going to be this 23-24 year. That is as we're starting to build out this communications plan and as we are kind of getting our grips on what we can be doing. One of the first things that I'll point out is not only the branding guidelines, but the social media policy. That will cover the TikTok ban that went into effect last month. This month?
September
Recently?
1st.
September 1st. And so that has a new policy to where any city-owned devices, that can be your phone, your tablet, your laptop, anything like that, cannot have any form of social media downloaded app unless it's given permission through your department head as well as me. We made some revisions for police just because they use some things for different investigative purposes, and then any of the administrators who run any of our pages will be able to have social media as well still. Some other highlights, and I know things that we've talked about before, is going to be our State of the City in fall of 2024. I went ahead and included it in this year. Ideally, I'd like to see it before October 1 of 24, but we'll really see. I'm working with CISD on y'all's big room over the football fields, and there's just a bunch of different things that we're moving towards all at once. But we'll look at that more probably in the beginning of the year. Another one is going to be the film-friendly certification through the governor's office. I've started this process. It is just now coming to y'all with a ordinance to where we adopt all of it and we become a film-friendly city. I've run into a couple of snags just because we don't own all of our streets with all of TxDOT stuff happening. So it's still on the list. I promise you I haven't forgotten. And then another thing will be for continuous relationships with our OEM groups. I meet a lot, or at least talk a lot, with the local PIOs. So that is Canyon, Randall County, CISD, WT. We've started to include UPD on all of this. It's that way when or if a crisis were to happen, we're a lot more comfortable with each other. We know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, we know where we can rely on one another. And so I'm pretty excited about that and continuing those relationships. For year one, we'll start moving our ESS, which is where most of our staff turn in their time, into more of an intranet style. We can't really afford an intranet just because those are really, really pricey for just anything in general. And so we've started to add different things into our timekeeping platform, including access to city emails, as well as starting putting forms there. And so we've already received a little bit of positive commentary from that, which I'm really excited to build out more of that and see where we can benefit our employees the most. They can access that on their phones. It gives them a little bit more outside of the office access. As far as the updated press release format check-in, that was part of year 0, which is where I'll be updating the format of how I'm doing press releases. Most of y'all received a press release from me earlier today. That's more of a traditional way of doing it, but I'll move to where I start hyperlinking everything within the press release, as well as writing copy for reporters' social media posts. It gives me a little bit more control over everything, and reporters are pretty short-staffed right now, and so most of the time if they can take a snippet and go ahead and drag and drop it into something, I already have a graphic laid out for them. It's a little bit more work on my part, but it also does give us a little bit more control over what they're grabbing and what snippets that they're choosing. And then we'll move into crisis, where I'm hoping to attend 105, which is Public Information Basics. That will be after quite a few online and in-person classes. This will depend on availability as well as budget. But I know I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting some of my basics done for my FEMA trainings. But I work with OEM and I work with PD and FD pretty consistently on that, and trying to get more courses either in Canyon or trying to find more courses that are open in Amarillo. For year 2, I don't know if many of y'all know this, but we have cultural awards internally. Those go in our internal newsletters every single month. They are employee nominated, so employees nominate each other. Senior staff can't receive them because the whole point is that we're not bragging about ourselves, it's that we're bragging about everyone else. But we'll move that to a public recognition to where it will still be employee-led, but it will be featured on social media. We'll do press releases about it. We'll really highlight our employees a little bit more. We'll move into Cup of Joe town hall style meetings, which I'm pretty excited about, of having coffee in the mornings with Joe available to our staff. And if they have any questions, if they want to talk to him about anything, if we are moving forward with any sort of a program, he can talk a little bit more on it and make it a little bit more informal. By 2026, I'd love to see full brand incorporation, and so that Russ logo will be on everything. It'll be on our trucks, it'll be on the walls, it'll be on all of our business cards, our letterhead, etc. I gave us 3 years just because of budgetary reasons, and I know it seems like both enough time and not enough time, but I feel like we are definitely going to be able to get it done. By 2026, also, I'm hoping to have an up-to-date photo and video library. That is one of the most common requests that I receive, is either stock photos, stock videos, B-roll, little snippets, audio. I received 2 just today. And so I'd love to start being out a little bit more, and going either to things like our farmers markets, the Christmas and Canyon, and start taking better photos of those and having rights over those, because while there are tons of photographers at all of those events, most of the time they're private photographers, and so they deserve to be paid for their work. But also, if I'm there, I can go ahead and do those things. And then we'll also ideally be able to finish all of my online FEMA trainings, all the way up to 388. And I'd like to look into emergency communications through push notifications. iPause is run through FEMA, but it is offered through different apps, to where when you receive an Amber Alert on your phone, that's set through iPause. It's very geographically specific. You don't have to have signed up for it. You don't have to pay for it. It is approved through FEMA, so I can't just message something out and say, hey, you know, we've got something really exciting going on today. But those actual emergencies, those tornadoes, those floods, snow, anything like that, it would be more of a hyper-local, geo-fenced way to do crisis communications. And then by year 3, I am still doing all of the rest of everything else, so I gave myself a lighter year. I would love to see, and Hector and I have talked about this quite a lot, but an all-staff convocation. So this would be a one-day style conference almost for all of our staff, to where we do internal trainings or leadership training in the morning. We break for lunch, and then we do the other one in the afternoon. And so we would break out in different locations just across the city, because very locally between City Hall, the library, the Cole, we have plenty of room for it. But I'd love to see us be able to do an all-staff training to get all of our staff together at one time. It is a little bit difficult to get everyone in one place. I know we only have 30 full-time staff, but that would also include our really active part-time staff, because we have actually quite a few of our part-time staff have been here for a while. I love seeing all of their year recognitions through our newsletter. For external, we would have a video series department in a day. It would show mostly what departments actually do each day. That would be a video series instead of the social media takeover that's in a previous year. But that would also be a recruitment piece. And so when we're hiring for different departments, we would tie that into a recruitment piece so people understand actually what different departments do. And then finally, by 2027, I would love to attend the advanced PIO course. Again, that does depend on budget. The closest one I've been able to find is in San Marcos. And that one is 5 days, I want to say. But that is the level beneath an MPIO, which is the highest level you can go as a PIO. That one is actually at FEMA headquarters. I have a friend doing that right now, and it's a little bit more intense, and potentially really not needed for a community the size of ours. He's in Pearland, so that's 130,000. But that would be really the end of my FEMA PIO training. I know there's 1 or 2 people in the Panhandle that are MPIO certified, and so that's not, or APIO certified. it's not unheard of in this area. And then I kind of ended with a statement that I came up with for my department, that through listening and community collaboration and strategic planning, every day really is a good day in Canyon. I'll be pushing that phrase a little bit more, and you'll see it in quite a bit of our branding moving forward. But that was a lot of information all at once. Shocker, the comms person is going to talk to you the most this evening. But do y'all have any questions?
Yes, Megan.
Yes, sir.
There's one thing you're gonna have to change. And I'm gonna have to do it for you. I'm gonna get you either a WT or a Texas A&M mug.
This is my CPC cup. That is the only reason that I have it. I am a proud WT graduate. That is why I'm wearing my maroon today.
I don't want that on
I
TV
promise.
or-
I'm sorry. I'll hide it from the camera. This is my work water bottles with me just about everywhere. And I knew I'd be talking quite a bit, so that I would need a cup of water. But I'll move to one of my WT ones instead. I promise.
Do you have to pay any royalties on the phrase "Every day's a good day in Canyon"?
Not that I've.
Not yet.
I mean,
3%.
it's really going to depend.
Raise this year.
Especially within the next 3 years, we'll see where we can sneak him in somewhere. He is getting credit on the mural if you're going down the stairs, and so it will really depend
Can we
on.
copy, what is that right, copyright? A phrase, can we?
We can copyright a phrase. It'll probably go within our trademark.
People to pick their communities.
Same thing.
I've
Every
encouraged
day's a good
Mules,
day in
I've
Marion
encouraged Mule Shoe, I've encouraged other communities. And
It's not unpopular, and specifically in Texas, a lot of cities and municipalities have been encouraged recently to start trademarking their logos or their seals, just because it is being used by large corporations as well as local. I know that Burleson, they did a big BTX, and it's being used for just about everything, and they're starting to lose control of it a little bit. And so whether or not they choose to will be a different thing, because that's not their official city seal. But it kind of depends. But it's been really interesting finding out more about it. I didn't know about the Walmart thing until Friday?
James sent me pictures.
So if anyone wants a non-official City of Canyon mug with the old logo on it, it's all in white, so it's not the wrong color, but it is, the N and the C do stick out a little bit.
Megan, I love the department in a day when you're thinking about moving that. Also would like to see, and you mentioned this, is start highlighting the employees from the city. And getting that information out there, because I think one thing that, and something that's important to me, is our students don't truly understand what city employees do or what job opportunities are available in the city. And so if we could start highlighting some of those people from different departments, so that people would truly understand the availability of jobs that they could do for their city wherever they land. And I think that's very important.
One thing will also be from year 2. I currently do an internal only monthly newsletter, where within that I do department highlights of what each department does every single month. It can be little things they're celebrating, it can be all of the accomplishments they've done this month, it can be personal celebrations. One thing I noticed from the survey is that people really don't want another email. I'm subscribed to about 1,000 newsletters, and I just don't know if I could also take one more. So likely we would do more of a blog style, where you can sign up for text notifications that a new blog has been posted. And so that would live on our city website, but it would also be a little bit easier to manage and upkeep, because then we can embed different videos and photos within the website itself, and we'll own all of those instead of giving them away to something like MailChimp, where it's harder to track. Does anyone else have any questions?
Megan, the alert that looks like we'll put out, shoot for a couple of years down the line.
Yes, sir.
It's like on the AMP alert type
iPods?
of system. So would that go out to everybody 79015? How?
It is a 5-digit code, and so I've spoken to 1 or 2 different vendors that do offer this, but I do know that there are more, and so within the next few years I would look into different pricing and different plans for different places. The one that spoke to most recently was called Text My Gov, and while it was a 5-digit code, it wasn't specifically a zip code, because take larger places like Houston or even Amarillo, where they have multiple different zip codes within one area. It would just be a code specifically for us. They didn't specify whether or not we got to choose what that code was, but if we did, something like 79015 would be really easy to manage.
And 79016, I guess, at the same time. But, yeah, I forget WT.
Hey, WT has all of their own notification systems, but it would hit everyone on campus. So it's very hyper specifically to a geo-fenced area. It's, like I said, it's when you get those amber alerts, those silver alerts, anything like that, that's what that notification is run through. We would also likely have the option to where for more city news focused things, say 15th, 16th, the block in front of Randall County Sheriff's Building is closed. And so we would also have the option through this texting service to have a text communication system to where people can sign in and opt in for that. It wouldn't be specifically a geo-fenced area. So say someone lives in Canyon but works in Amarillo, if they've signed up for that, then if we sent out that text that said this block is closed until Monday, they would still receive that.
You know, just sounds good to me. If we had an Amber Alert type of a system for a tornado warning, you know, that sounds like
It's something I'm looking in the future for. It's a little bit pricier. And so I didn't see the ability to budget it in the next year or two, but I know it's something that I'm looking at adding.
And notice, so your respondent said that social media would be the preferred communication.
So,
additional communication.
When I
are
asked,
looking at that, or what?
When I asked how,
25% said.
when I asked how people would prefer if we were to increase our communications, how would they like to see it? Was how the question was phrased. Let's see, where did it go? I had more stats within the actual doc. 20.1% say they'd prefer it to be through email, which I'd still say is on the lower end of things. 25% said that it would be through social media. Those were the two highest. They also offered things like mailing or text, but those were pretty low. 27.7% of people said that they receive most of their information through the city's main website. Another really popular one was still just news media, as well as social media. And so those are still really important. And while we can put everything on our website and link everything back to our website, having that owned media is really important, but also spreading it through different channels is really helpful. I know that something I found really interesting was, at least of the 1,300 respondents, 72% said they had school-aged children in their home, which also shows something I glossed over a little bit was partnerships with local social media leaders. That would include things like our superintendents, our CISDs, our WTs, everything like that, because we might not be the only page that people are following, or if they're following WT or if they're following CISD or those high schools, they might not be following our pages. And so kind of collaborating with those, that would also include collaboration with the All Things Canyon admins. They are three very hardworking people who run a page of 20,000 plus completely volunteer. That's where a lot of people get their news. But one thing that Matt and I have noticed is that when there's a crisis, a lot of people start to post on All Things Canyon, and they actually stop the majority of those from getting through until we've chosen to make a statement and until we're the ones that are publishing the information. And so they do a really good job about not letting misinformation go through. Mind you, of course, something's always going to get through because once the comments turn on, they really do never stop. But they do a really good job, and so I'd love to lean on them a little bit more as well.
We always want to make We want to put our own story out there. And so we don't want someone else telling our story. And I think that's always very important to remember. We've learned that a lot in my profession. So if you don't put it out there, someone else will, and it may not be
Someone's
the
gonna
right
say
one.
it, it might as well be you. Do any more of y'all have questions?
Impressive.
Thank you.
You may as well state of the city. We're moving to do a full scale state of the city this next go around.
Yeah, and I think we need to think that through. I think CISD would be a good resource to, how do you do that well? I don't think you want a town hall kind of a deal and you have 10 people show up. I mean, we had a lot more in Lions Club, a packed room. So I think we need to think through some of those
We're
pieces.
thinking just like they do the business luncheon,
With the
Gary.
luncheon.
Yeah, doing a state of the city
Invites.
luncheon, and including we're even thinking the same space, doing it at the stadium. So that's kind of what we're thinking.
Size-wise, so that makes the most sense. Really, the only thing that's the pause right now is a date, as well as budget. So
Make sure we get a good day where it's hard not to conflict with other main events, CISD events, WT events, our own events, so trying to lock that
if
down.
it's too early in the summer, then everyone's still on vacation. If it's too close to the start of school, then people are busy using their lunch periods to go school shopping. If it's right after school, then people want to get home and go ahead and deal with all of their kids. Then we work into when WT comes back, when homecoming is. That's really just kind of the ever fun game of planning events in a small town, or even just in the Amarillo area in general. Joe and I were talking about on Saturday alone, there were, 3 to 5 large events within this area. So there's always something happening.
Yeah, I think a meal probably styled similar to what CISD's done. They've been very successful with theirs, but I know they also work it, make a lot of phone calls, RSVPs.
Right.
They're reaching out to get folks there too.
That's what we are thinking on the surface. Megan's working that direction to go that way.
It's about building once you have your database built of who you're going to invite, that helps too. That's a big piece of it.
It is.
Identifying people.
Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Well done. Well done.
All right, item number 16, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 35-2023, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon, Texas, in order to make nominations to the Board of Directors of Randall County Appraisal District. Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your administrative staff of myself, Mr. Burns, and Ms. Mercer have come up with at least one potential person. We did a group think on that. It's getting harder to find people to appoint to the appraisal district. We have several rolling off there. Jeffrey Dagley, who many of y'all know is our chief appraiser, sent out asking for nominations. I don't believe the school put out any nominations. I think we just have one, would be Miss Claudia Burkett. And I have visited with her and she said, she's not a city resident, yes, I understand, but I don't think that really matters at this point, so. It's the only one we could come up with. Obviously, y'all know a lot of people as well as we do. If there's anybody else that you thought might be interested, we can always put them on there. Just a reminder, this is to nominate, and then all the entities will have to vote on those nominations, and we're on the small end of the voting, if y'all don't know. Our school districts take up quite a bit of those votes, and that's on PDF page 58.
And you vetted Claudia's interest, correct?
I did visit with Claudia, yes, sir, I did, and she was good with it. She was good to serve if y'all wanted her to.
So moved for Claudia.
Second.
Have a motion second to nominate Claudia Burkett to serve on the PRAD board. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign.
Motion passes, and if someone else has an additional nominee, we will move forward to the next agenda item.
Can we go over dates before we go to closed session, sir? Our next commission meeting is on the 2nd. However, CEDC wanted to have a joint commission EDC board meeting. I think we were thinking Thursday, right, 28th? Is that what we talked about? Do you remember, Robin?
Yes, that's what we have on, but tentatively.
Tentative, next Thursday, 28th. We were talking about a long lunch meeting, 11:30 to 1:30, probably over in the Texas room or the EDC boardroom to fit all of us around. So just talk about EDC moving forward and just have some collaboration. So if your calendar's open, it'd be next Thursday, September 28th from 11:30 or 11 to 1 or 1:30. We would feed everybody.
That works for me, and this is when I think I'd really like to be able to have all the commissioners be able to attend. I think that's just important. We're not doing it that often, we do it once a year, so I think if that day doesn't work, I think we'll try to find a different day. So the spot works for me.
To work.
Danny's fine. PR. Yeah. Robin. I'll get with Ms. Tucker and we'll get that out immediately and we'll get that set up. Texas room, okay, over at the community center. I think that's probably enough space for, there's 13 total plus a few staff members, so. Or actually, we might probably do the library, might be the best one.
It's not that big.
Can't feel,
Texas room is bigger.
is it?
You could do the small room, small side.
Right. I don't.
We can't get enough around the library table, you think?
If we moved into the other room, we could. Not the nice room,
Talker.
but
No, I was talking about the nice room where we do department head meetings.
right. I think we'd be pretty tight in there. But if we went to the other room, there'd be.
With the ocean floor.
Yes.
It's talker room.
Yes.
We'll either do over there or Texas room. We will send out a calendar invite to everybody. Tentatively 11:30 on Thursday the 28th. Thank you, sir.
Do you need any other input on other dates here?
No, sir, the next commission date's October 2nd and then October 16th after that.
2 meeting dates in December, would the second one be tentative, or is that?
It could
if
be, we can discuss that.
All right, then that takes us to item number 17, executive session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.074, personnel matters, city manager and municipal judge annual evaluations, 551.072, regarding real property, and 551.087 regarding economic development negotiations. That looks like it is 6:13, and we will retire into exec session.
We'll go a while.